Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know if
Good
you're listening to
morning.
this in the morning, but it's morning for us.
It's early morning for me. I know you get up early,
Yes.
but I've been rushing around trying to get the kids to my parents' house and switching car seats, and I like literally almost threw out my back trying to put in the car seat. I was like this was not my morning, but it's okay. Thursdays are always crazy because it's trash day. And so it's like, and we take the kids to my parents instead of her coming here, my mom coming here. So it's like trying to get everybody out of the house, which I know you do every morning, and I don't know how you do it.
Just, practice. I swear to you, when I first returned to work after maternity leave, I was so anxious about doing that with two kids. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
how? I'm late everywhere I go right now. How am I going to manage to get to work on time by 8 o'clock with a 40-minute drive? I figured
Yeah.
it out. I mean,
I don't know.
you just do.
Do your kids wake up early enough for you to get them ready, or do you have to wake them up most mornings?
Um, Brax usually wakes up shortly after I wake up most
Oh, okay.
mornings. And he
Okay.
just chills. And he needs that time, chill time before we have to get dressed and get out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Brinley usually I wake her up about 30 minutes before we have to leave. And
And just
she
get her
cuz
like
she
ready real quick.
yeah, she kind of needs a little bit as she gets older, she needs more time to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times she'll wake up and just hang out in her crib and play and, whatever. And I'll
That's
go in
nice.
there when I get finished, getting ready. But the mornings when they're both awake, which happened this week, I don't know what was going on, but my daughter woke up at 4:45
Oh my
and
goodness.
my alarm goes off at 10 after 5.
I just spilled coffee all over myself. Luckily, I'm wearing completely all black. It's okay.
I just thought dribble out.
It's like, I swear, Joe says that like my mouth. Wait, Joe says my mouth is like underdeveloped. I can't whistle. I always like spill drinks out of my mouth.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I can't spit. Like whenever I spit, this is so
Really?
gross. Flies everywhere. Like I can't like get like a really good spit. Anyways, Joe's like, and my mom's the same way. Joe's like, you guys have some weird thing that runs in your family. You guys have like underdeveloped mouth muscles.
That is so funny. That is
Okay,
so
go ahead.
funny.
Your kids
Yeah,
woke up
I
at
don't
45.
yeah, I don't know what it was, but Brinley woke up at 4:45. I was gonna try to lay her back down, but then I was in my head, I'm like, is it worth me putting all this time and effort to get her to lay back down? Because she wasn't going back down easy. Usually she does, but
Mm-hmm.
she was not. Is it worth all my time and energy when my alarm's literally getting ready to go off and I'm gonna have to be up anyways to get ready?
Mm-hmm.
So we just had an early start, which worked out
Wow.
because I worked at the hospital. So I had, a 45-minute drive. And my coworker was like, "You're here really early." I was like, "Yeah, my kids wouldn't sleep this morning." So,
Oh my
oh
goodness.
gosh.
What time do you go to sleep at night?
Usually shortly after Brax is goes to sleep around 8, I lay down.
Oh, okay. So you go to
Um,
bed pretty early. That makes sense. Yeah,
yeah,
cuz
yeah.
I've been getting later and later now. It's always like 10 to 10:30 I would go to sleep because my kids usually wake up around 7. But then I was still waking up with Desi once or twice a night still too. So that would get me 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then he's been sleeping through the night the last couple like this week most of the nights has slept through the night. And so and he's going down on his own too. Like I nurse him, but then I just put
Hmm.
him down in his crib and sing him a song and then I walk out. And that's like life
Yeah,
changing when you get there.
it is.
Because it was like he was getting to the point where he was still nursing to sleep, but he was kind of, going not comfortable nursing to sleep
Yeah,
anymore. But he didn't I don't know, we had to just pull the plug and just do the transition. No, you're gonna go to sleep in your crib after you nurse, whatever. It's going really
that's
well.
where we're at too.
But yeah. And so I think once or twice in the last week or two he's woken up once a night, but really, and then it's just nurse and then go right back in his bed. But he's been sleeping, and then but I've been staying up way too late because I'm just like, feel like I have freedom of like, I remember getting to this point with Alda of
Yeah.
like, oh, I know I'm going to get to sleep from now until 6:45 or 7 a.m. or whatever. And so I've been like staying up way, way, way too late, and it's not been good.
I'm
But it's
definitely
okay.
guilty of like I go to like I lay down or like start my routine of like
Hmm.
shower, wash my face, change clothes, all the things
Oh, yeah.
right after Brax goes to sleep most nights. But there are nights where I lay there and I just scroll TikTok
Oh,
and
yeah.
for, till 10 o'clock. And I'm like, what am I doing? Go
That's my
to
problem is
sleep.
like after the kids go to bed, I'll usually like hang out with Joe for like a couple minutes, and he usually goes on a run after the kids go to bed. And so then we'll just like talk for a little bit, and then I'll like watch a show, and we'll eat a snack or something. Then it'll be like time for me to go to bed. But then it's what my kryptonite is if I open up my phone and start scrolling in
Uh-huh.
between like watching a show and getting up, then it'll be like 45 minutes, an hour later, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never got up and got ready for bed. Now it's so late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tired. So yeah, it
So
stinks.
today we are just jumping into some Reddit threads. We've been
Yeah,
kind of looking at them. We have not shared what we have found on Reddit with each other, so it's going to be a
mm-hmm.
surprise, and we're just going to chat about it. It hopefully will be a shorter episode than
Yeah, we
normal.
thought like a good short fun episode would be good because we've had some long ones lately. But you go ahead, you go first with
Okay.
yours. Read it to me.
Okay. So mine is funny or unexpected parent pet peeves.
Ooh,
So
okay.
it's just, yeah, we can just decide if we also feel the same
Is it
things.
like people
So,
answering? Is it somebody say theirs, but then people were also commenting?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, when anyone says, "Uh-oh, I think she's hungry," or that she needs
Oh my
change, just let me sit
goodness.
down for 5 minutes without feeling like I have something to do.
Literally, that was like the most annoying thing with having a breastfed baby is like every time they cry, being like, "Oh, they're probably just hungry." Which like I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do that too when I'm holding people's babies, or I don't say like I try not to say, "Oh, they're hungry." Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, they just want their mom," because like
Mhm.
I knew it was so annoying for me, even if my kid like it was so annoying with people always saying that they were hungry when you're breastfeeding because then it's just like, okay, well then give the baby back to me. It's more annoying when your partner does it than other people. When your partner is
Yes.
like is like, oh,
Oh my
breastfeeding,
gosh.
like shut up and calm down your child.
I remember that was like I kind of fell into that trap with my first because I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess maybe he is.
Mhm.
But with my daughter, I knew better. And so my husband she'd be like rooting around on his arm or whatever.
Mhm.
And she was a good nurser. So I really didn't have much of a question of like if she was getting enough.
Yeah.
And he would bring her to me and I'm like, she's not hungry.
Yeah.
She's
He's just
just
looking
tired,
for
looking
stuff
for
for stuff
comfort.
comfort. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
go find her
totally.
pacifier and put her to
Mhm.
sleep. Like, quit bringing her back to me.
Yeah, yes, totally. I
Oh
definitely was
my
like that with my
gosh.
second baby versus my first two. But I try to like with moms, I've tried to ever since I became a mom, like if the baby's crying, because I know it would annoy me so much when my baby was crying and people wouldn't hand the baby
Yes.
back to me. So
Yes.
instead of insinuating that they're not eating enough or you're not making it, like if you say, oh, they're hungry all the time, it like gets in mom's head. Like it's insinuating that you're inadequate if they're breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually just say, like, oh, they want their mom and like give them back. That's usually what I try to say. But yeah,
What
it's
would
way
drive
more
me
annoying.
crazy is when I knew, like, someone was holding my baby and I knew that it was time for them to eat, but the person holding them would be like, oh, let's get you a blanket because you might be cold, like doing everything besides just
Yes.
giving them to me so I could feed them. And I would literally be like, oh, it's probably time to eat. And then they'd continue to like do the things and hold them and not get, and I'm
Yep.
like, okay, well, it's time to eat. So can I have
Yeah.
my baby back, please?
Yes, yes. I
Oh
definitely
my
agree with that.
gosh.
That would be so annoying. I would also, so like, Alda didn't take a bottle. And there was one family gathering where like, I told some family members that I was gonna like be on the other side of the room, step out of the room and let them try a bottle. Like they were like, we like moms, like they were like an aunt and one of her grandmas that like had multiple kids, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like step out of the room, let you guys try. But it was like a family gathering, so there was lots of people around, and
Mhm.
like she was still pretty young, so we were still just in the like, let's just try, like keep trying phase. And she was like really upset. And then when I came back to get her, they were like, oh no, we just need to keep trying. Or like, if she's hungry enough, she'll take it. And I'm just like, we're like with like 10 people at a family gathering. And she's like screaming, like, just give me back my baby to nurse. Like, we tried it. It didn't go well. She's not going to be a positive experience if she's like freaking out with like strangers
Mhm.
that she doesn't know holding her, trying to give her a bottle. Like, we tried, give her back.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Oh
my
my goodness.
gosh. And then the other one,
Okay.
this kind of goes along with it, but like, I think she needs a new diaper from the grandmas specifically.
Yeah.
My mom tells me this story that when me and my brother were babies, my grandma, who is the sweetest ever, but my
Mhm.
grandma would literally change our diapers like the minute we peed.
Mhm.
So my mom was
And
like,
you're like, who's
diapers
paying
were
for this?
expensive. Yeah, diapers were expensive then, just as they are now. And she's like, we would literally go through so many diapers when we would go to visit because you were constantly getting changed.
Yep.
I didn't really deal with that because she knows that. I didn't really deal with that much, but I just think it's funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
And you guys do cloth diapers most of the time.
Yeah, we do, which like you can't, it doesn't have the wetness indicator.
Mhm.
And so we've been doing mostly disposals with my son now, because I always around 18 months get sick of cloth diapering, like the laundry. So like I do it,
Yeah.
and I feel like they go through less diapers when they're older too. And he's actually like after nap, after bedtime, like a lot, like he'll go on the potty once in a while too. So we're
Yeah.
going through less diapers. It's not like half and half at all, but like a few times a day, once or twice a day, he'll go on the potty. So we're just going through less diapers. So we've just been doing disposable right now, but yeah, I usually would go time with cloth diapers, like every hour and
Yeah.
a half we change, because they get like wet quicker. Like you can't keep
Mhm.
them on as longer. And so unless it was like a poop, obviously then change it right away. But that's actually something that I had to really tell caregivers, because a lot of people will go like 2.5 hours before checking
Mhm.
it with disposables. And I'm like, it just doesn't absorb as much. They also can feel the wetness on the cloth diaper, which makes it a lot easier for like, I feel like around 18 months with both my kids, they were like wanting to go on the potty more, and like understood, like both of them understood like peeing, like sitting on the potty and like releasing their pee, because I feel like they felt that pee and then like it's wet sensation, that they like
Yeah.
understood the feeling of what it felt like to have to pee kind of thing early on with cloth diapers. But anyways, but yeah, but I would have to tell people like, you have to change it. I know it's annoying, but you have to change it like every hour and a half or so, or it'll be like soaked through and they'll be like squirming in it
Yep.
and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. The other one says effing doorbells. I'm about to rip them out.
Not doorbells, but by dog. That's what
The
annoys
dogs with the
me.
doorbells.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I just feel like it's really rare to hear our doorbell ring. So when
Uh-huh.
I do, I'm like, who the heck is ringing the doorbell?
I know. It's
Like
like,
even
and I
now,
don't even
even when my
think,
kids aren't sleeping, I'm just like, who is doing that?
yeah. I feel like not even like UPS or FedEx or anything really ring the doorbell anymore. Sometimes they do like the little knock or a little
Yeah.
beep or something like as they're leaving, but they don't usually like ring the doorbell. But no, it's just the dog. She gets like bored when the kids are sleeping and then just like looks out the window for things to bark at. And then just,
Mhm.
gosh.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like there were more funny ones, but now I'm like going through and I'm not seeing them.
Well,
Um,
wait, let me try to think of a pet peeve I have as a parent. oh, my mom telling I love my mom. Sorry, mom. My mom telling me to take the kids to the doctor over like little like colds and things like that. That really annoys me.
Yes.
They have a cold right now and they've only had a cold for like 2 days. My mom's like, it might be a sinus infection. You need to take them in. And I'm like, they've had a cold for 2 days. They don't have fevers. It's not a sign. Like, I'm going to go to the doctor. And I think that that really comes, I don't know what your experiences was, but I feel like when I was younger, I was like overprescribed antibiotics so much for like things that were probably viruses. And now I feel like doctors are so much more careful about like making
I think we just
sure
know
it's,
more.
yes, they make sure that it's like an infection and really needs an antibiotic. And so like I feel like a lot of times when I bring my kids to the doctor, even they've been sick for like a week or two, lots of times they're just like, it's a virus. It needs to play out. And like it does, you know, like after a few days they start feeling better and stuff, or after a week or two. And so yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna tote them to the doctor every time they have like a viral congestion, whatever, and then them get something else too, you know, and then the
Yeah.
doctor just say, oh, you just have to wait. And my kids do sometimes get ear infections. I know Brinley did too, but like
Yep.
that's always obvious to me of like they get a fever usually, and then also like especially now that they're older, like Desi will pull at his ear and tell me it hurts and
Yeah.
stuff. And so yeah.
Yeah, I just get irritated when someone's like, "Oh, they feel so warm." I'm like, "Okay, like
Yeah.
I know
Did I ever
they're
tell you
warm.
there
I'm
was,
not gonna check their temperature. Like, what was their temperature? I don't know. I'm
yeah,
I'm not I'm not checking their temperature. Like, I can tell if they've got a fever looking at them and like by the touch, like by the feel of
by the
them.
touch? Yep. Did I
And
ever tell you?
also,
Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. If they're not acting like they feel bad, I'm not treating their fever. I'm
Yes,
not just gonna give them
that's recommended
medicine.
now. That's
Yeah.
recommended now by like pediatricians, is you don't treat the fever, you treat like the symptoms of the
Yeah.
child, so
Yeah.
that you can let it play out and it can help fight off the virus. And then okay, so I went to the doctor once with my son, and like our doctor's office, like we see one specific doctor, but they have like 10 or 12 doctors that like you
Yeah.
kind of just see whoever's available on a sick visit. I've loved all of them, but there was this one like older male doctor. He had like grown kids and grandkids, and he was so sweet. And he was telling me about this new study that came out of Harvard, Harvard Medical, that was saying, because I said, he was like, oh, did he have a fever? Like he asked about Desi when Desi was sick, and I was like, well, I didn't take his temperature, but I felt him, and he was hot, like I said, or whatever. And at night, like it was the middle of the night. And he said, so there's this new study that came out of Harvard Medical. I don't have the study. This is just word of mouth from this old doctor, that moms can tell the temperature of their kids within like 1 degree, and like based on what descriptor they're using, a doctor can know if they had like what temperature they had. So they're like, if you said that they were a little warm, they're between like 99 and
99.
100.5 or something. And then if you said that they were hot, they were between like 100.5 and 102. And then if you were saying they were like burning up, then that were over 102. But it was like they tried the same thing with dads, and dads were not the same at all.
No.
But moms could literally, if you told a doctor, so he was like, so since you said he's hot, he probably had a fever between 105 and 102. And he was like, it was almost like 90% of the time accurate to moms. And I'm like, I believe it, because I feel like it's because we're always skin to skin with our babies and our toddlers. Like our bodies are always touching, whether it's breastfeeding, whether it's just holding them,
Kissing
cheek to
them.
cheek, kissing
Yeah.
them. We're like our kids, our toddlers, like moms are always skin to skin with them. And so I feel like it's easier for us to notice when there's temperature changes. So that's something that like when other people, like Joe came upstairs yesterday and was like, are you sure the kids don't have a fever? Like, because they had colds. And I was like, I was like, absolutely not. They don't have a fever. Like that's just their normal like sweat. Like, oh, I was running outside body temperature, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And my husband, sorry, babe, I love you, but my husband is the worst. He's always like, well, did you check their temperature? I'm like, no, like they've got a fever.
I can tell if they have a fever or not.
Like, I don't really care what the number is. I know they have a fever. Their eyes are glazed over. They're not really acting right. Like, they act like they're
not
feel
eating
well.
great. They're warm. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Or,
but I thought
like,
that was so
yeah,
interesting.
they feel a little warm, but like, they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
playing, they act fine. It's just so funny. He's always like, well, what was their temperature? I'm like, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. It's fine.
I love those older doctors though that are just like, I've had a couple of them, I feel like, that are just like, moms know best. Moms know, like, that are just like, they're like, believe in the power of mom. And I'm like, I agree with that. Like, who have been around the block a couple times. They're like, we believe in mother's intuition. And I'm like, yeah, that's pediatricians should, which I like all the pediatricians I've seen in my child's office, but he was just funny.
That is funny. That's kind of cool though. I mean, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's always fun when
okay.
science like backs up what you know. So
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you dive into yours. What you got?
Okay. Okay. Separation anxiety is real for moms. That's the title. So this is long. This is not like yours. So it's like a long story. Okay. There's lots of parts I want to talk about. And I haven't read any of the comments because I don't want my opinion to be skewed by like what people in the comments are saying. So, okay. My sister-in-law and her 5 children came from out of state to visit. This morning, she offered to take my 16-month-old toddler to the zoo since she's going with her kids anyways. There's not enough space in the car for me and I don't have a second car. I have been more than reluctant and basically said thanks, but probably not until my husband got up. My sister-in-law started working on him and they agreed that it would be nice quality time for the cousins to hang out together and we could have a child-free break. They were rushing to head out already and I eventually felt pressured to say yes. Now my baby's gone for the day and my husband went off for a hobby. Also, I just realized reading this that the husband didn't even hang out with her.
Like,
I didn't even realize that until after I finished reading it. Until I didn't realize that the first time I read it. I cleaned the house. Poor mom. She's like, I just sat around and cleaned and my husband went off. I didn't even realize that part of it until now. Yeah. So that's what
I'm guilty.
Yeah. I cleaned the house and I'm now sitting on the couch alone, twiddling my thumbs, missing and worrying about my baby. He had a low-grade fever for a few days and was just fever-free in the last day or so. He needs a strict nap routine and doesn't like car rides. More importantly, he has never been away from me and my husband at the same time since birth. I'm so concerned that he would have a poopy diaper without anyone noticing, since they'll be outdoors and it's harder to smell it, or have a fever again, or cry in the car without knowing what's going on or where his parents went. I definitely know that I'm going down a rabbit hole, and I want to say that I fully trust my sister-in-law with my child. She's exceptional. I mean, I would hope so. She has 5 kids. She's exceptional with children. She's exceptional. I was like...
She's got a little experience.
Yeah, she was, and has more experience than almost anyone else. Yes, that's true. On top of that, she's doing it purely out of kindness to give us a break. Nevertheless, I just feel so restless and unreasonably mad. I don't even want to look or talk to my husband because how mad I am. And then she goes, even though he's completely innocent, of course. I have comments about that. I finally have the place to myself for several hours and the peace and quiet I always wanted, but now I'm not in the mood to do anything except for missing my baby and sulking on the couch. I have so many thoughts because on one side, I feel like she has some postpartum anxiety, like her reeling of like, what if he has a poopy diaper? What if he cries in the car? Like those are all just normal things that babies go through, like discomforts in life, and they can't like that's normal stuff. No,
You're not causing your baby to have trauma because they had a poopy diaper.
If he has a poopy diaper for like 30 minutes before your sister-in-law notices, like that's not going to be a traumatic instant. But then on the other side, I'm also like, I don't like that the first time you're leaving your baby with somebody that's not you or your husband, that it's like a rushed thing of like you felt pressured into it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
And it sounds like the husband was involved in the conversation, right? Like the sister-in-law talked with the husband and like.
So she said her and the sister-in-law were talking about it before her husband woke up. And she said no, like thanks, but no thanks. And then when the husband woke up, the sister-in-law started like bugging her brother about it, which I don't really like. I think the sister-in-law probably should have let it lie. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I also feel like when you have 5 kids, it's like you see it as like not a big deal, probably. Like, oh, it's just another kid. And like, I have 5 of them. So I don't care if one of my kids is like gone or what. Like, you're just probably more a chill mom by the time you have 5 kids. Versus like, she should have, though, respected her sister-in-law being like, I'm not comfortable with that though, too.
Well,
I
and
don't know.
then the husband just like leaves.
Yeah, and she goes, oh, she was like telling him, oh, I could take the baby so then you guys can have time together
Yeah.
and have alone time. So really the villain is the husband.
She's like, he did nothing wrong. I'm like, no, he did
Yeah.
everything wrong.
Yeah, like I just don't think, and like I've been I definitely like we've had, because I get really anxious about
Yeah,
leaving my kids alone, and like
me
there's
too.
very few people that I trust with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
but then I am guilty. Like sometimes I do need a little bit of a push from my husband to be like, because like lots of times like I leave my kids with my parents all the time, like we're very close, but then like sometimes if I've been like busy working and we had like a date night planned, I'm like, oh, I want to cancel the date night because I feel bad that I haven't been with the kids a lot this week. And sometimes I need a little bit of a push to like put it in perspective of like, you're not traumatizing your children to like leave them to like go have fun
Yeah.
with your friends or hang or have a date or like whatever. Like I'm gone at work 9 to 5 every single day and they don't have this like disrupted traumatic relationship with me, you know, because like he'll
Yeah.
have to say that to me. So like sometimes you do need stuff put in like perspective, but I don't like that they were like pressuring her and rushing her to
And
make that like it should. Sorry, go ahead.
it makes a difference too, what, as the parent, what you're doing with your time. Because if you are just sitting around the house, it's way easier to worry about everything because you are so hyper focused on it. Because
Oh,
you're used to
100%.
being home with your baby versus like
Yeah.
if you were to go out of the house and either have time with your spouse or partner, have time with friends, go grab a coffee and go shopping, like whatever it is, it's so much easier to
Yeah.
not fall into that trap of like
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and spiral downward if you're busy doing other things.
100%. Yes. And I also just feel like if this is literally at 60 months, her first time where the baby isn't with her or her husband, it should have been a more like gentle thing of like, let's have my mother-in-law come over and watch the baby while we go out for dinner. Like, but I mean, I feel like there has to be some level of postpartum anxiety going on where she has not had anybody watch her baby
Mm-hmm.
for 16 months, or like maybe
Yeah.
she doesn't have support or like something like that, but like not easy. Like I feel like it would need to be eased into a little bit more instead of just like, hey, I'm taking your baby along with my 5 kids like out, because then especially for somebody with anxiety about their baby, there's so many more scenarios to run through of what could possibly go wrong with your child out at the zoo with 5 other
Mm-hmm.
kids than like worrying about, okay, they're in their space, they're in their home. Like that would be like more of a gradual like
Yeah.
warm up to, for not for the baby but for the mom being
Mm-hmm.
like leaving her baby for the first time. But I had this, okay, so I made a post on TikTok and Instagram, but on TikTok it got some like comments about, I was saying about how to like screen yourself for postpartum anxiety and
Yeah.
postpartum depression. I think I made on Instagram about like the 2-week window about like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
after 2 weeks, like you should be feeling a little bit more like okay with like maybe going out somewhere with your baby or like taking them over to your mom's house or something like that. People were like, a lot of people in my comments were like, yeah, I was really stir crazy starting around 2 to 3
Mm-hmm.
weeks and like wanting to do things. There are people in my comments being like, are you kidding me? I don't even feel safe taking my 2-year-old out to Target. Why would I would never take my 2-week-old baby. And then I was like, so maybe you could read the room and be like, maybe I have postpartum anxiety. So like
Yeah.
instead of them looking at themselves and being like, maybe I have postpartum anxiety, they were like mad that I would ever suggest that somebody would want to take like leave the house at 2 weeks postpartum. They're like, the world isn't safe. There's sickness everywhere. I'm like, so maybe you have postpartum anxiety.
Like those things are true to an
Yes.
extent, but
Yes.
also we can't just hole ourselves like in the
Yes.
house. Like that's not
Yes.
healthy either.
That's like an unhealthy coping mechanism
Yes.
to the anxiety and the stress that we have as modern day parents, because I agree. And I think we have some perspective too, because we had our first babies before the pandemic. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of people who had their first babies, I really think it's like a cutoff of post pandemic. They were so told like, you cannot go anywhere with your babies. You cannot go anywhere because it's not safe. Where like we had a little bit more of that perspective of like, we did, like, it was okay to put your baby in the baby wrap and go walk around Target. People were like, there's still COVID. Are you kidding me? You take a 2-week-old baby out? I'm like, what's the risk of them being in a baby wrap walking around a store? Nobody's in there. I would say bringing them to a family gathering would be way more risk than
Mm-hmm.
having them like in the car seat, in the stroller, or on your body, walking around Target where no one's in their face, no one's breathing like
No one's
on them,
holding them.
no one's holding them. But it can be like life changing for your mental health as a
Mm-hmm.
mom to like actually get out of the house, because people are like, 2 weeks postpartum, that's crazy. I'm like, well, if you didn't have a really bad birth where like you feel fine, 2 weeks sitting at home, just at home, feels like ground, like it's just over and over and over, like the same day, that it can be like life changing for your mental health to want to like get out of the house, even if it's just going to your mom's house or going to Target for 10 minutes. Like that can be like life changing for people who are
Yeah.
dealing with just, being holed up in their home. And I also just said you should want to do those things. So like if you made a personal choice of like, hey, I don't want to leave my house, I don't want to take my baby out until they're 4 or 6 weeks or something like that because of illness, like that's fine. But I was just saying like you should want to get out of the house or like talk to your friends or like something like that, where if you're getting like deeper into like reclusion and not wanting to let anybody hold your baby and not whatever, that's a bad sign. But anyways,
Yeah.
it was just reminding me of this thread because I like didn't want to say it to them, but I was like, maybe you should re-listen to this TikTok.
Yeah. Maybe you should really listen to the message.
Of this.
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I feel like I had a level of postpartum anxiety, but it was more so around like leaving my baby and, all of that versus like taking them with me places. And with Brax, we were out and about like the next day after we got discharged, unfortunately, because we were dealing with like jaundice and like having to get lab
So you were
draws
like,
and so like forced to like not be
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, Alda had to do a second jaundice lab draw at the hospital like a few days after getting home too. And so it was like, yeah, I had my baby like at a hospital around other people at a lab, like, and whatever. It's like that going to Target and walking around with them in the baby carrier is not that big of a deal. And it's so different if you had like a C-section or a 3rd or 4th degree tear, like then you need the time to heal. But also some of us didn't have that, and like we're able to be like up walking around and doing things and wanting to get
And
out
I'm
and
a
going
huge
on, like,
proponent
walks.
of like prioritizing rest in the first couple of weeks. So like I don't want anyone listening to this thinking that we're suggesting you go out for the whole day and like
no
I'm
talking about
crazy.
like
we're
run
just
to Target and walk around for 15 minutes.
We're just talking like short outings to make you feel like you are still like your own person and like get some fresh air and not be holed up in the house. But
So I agree. Like it's not, oh, you should be going out, but it's more of like that desire of like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little holed up. Like that's more of a postpartum anxiety thing. So yeah, I think it's like there's so many layers to it. It's like, husband, you're stupid. You shouldn't have pressured her into doing something she didn't want to do. And then also, if you were going to pressure her into doing something she didn't want to do, you should have hung out
stayed
with her,
around.
made the most of it, not just been like, okay, you clean the house and then miss your baby and I'm gonna go out and have fun. You should have like made a date out of it, or like just
because
even
that
clean the house together.
That adds to the anxiety too, or really just like you're anxious about your baby, but then you're like resentful towards your husband because you are like sitting around doing nothing while you're cleaning, but again,
and then on the other
both
side,
people
like
are having fun.
Exactly, yeah. And I get like the mom thing too, because I was pretty anxious with my first about leaving her with people, and there was very certain people that I trusted, and I really did usually need to like wrap my mind around it and plan out the routine and give instructions like to people, especially since she was just a difficult baby and she wouldn't take a bottle and she cried a lot. Like I just had a lot of anxiety about leaving her, and I felt like I really had to like talk through it with people. But I was leaving her over a year old with people to go
Mhm.
work during the day and stuff because she didn't have to nurse all day. And so like I would leave her, but it just like for my anxiety, I really need to like think through the situation, talk with the person about the plan where like it doesn't feel like she was given that like opportunity to like talk it through with her sister-in-law, think through, is this something I'm comfortable with or not? And then she also wasn't respected in that decision of saying, no, I'm too anxious. Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, it's like she wasn't respected in, even if she does, like I do feel like it's kind of not unreasonable to not want to send your baby with like 5 other kids, because like that just all depends on like relationships and your comfort with your sister-in-law, which just seems like she does trust her sister-in-law.
Yeah.
But like the fact that it's her first time with her baby not being with one of them is like
Mhm.
that probably shouldn't be like a zoo trip. If you're that anxious that you haven't left your baby for 16 months, that probably shouldn't be like a zoo trip out with one adult and 5 other kids, because I could see that
Yeah.
making your mind real a lot.
Yeah, and I always felt so much better when I got like regular updates. Like I knew when they were eating. I knew when they were
Yep.
like what they were doing. I was getting pictures and like stuff like that.
Oh,
Um
totally.
because if I didn't have that, it definitely made it worse.
Yep, yep. No, I
Definitely made it
agree with that.
worse.
That I feel like if I was able to like communicate and be like, and I'm anxious about this, and then like get updates and things that were
Mhm.
happening, that did always help.
But
And
then also if
personally,
the person is taking care of them also is taking care of 5 other kids,
mhm,
I don't necessarily want them to be on on their phone
yeah,
sending me
don't
a bunch
have the
of
yeah,
updates.
yeah, yeah, totally,
So,
totally, yeah. That's just like crazy to me too. Like the of course to the sister-in-law, it's probably just, oh, it's just another kid, like it's not a big
mhm,
deal because she's so used to babies and toddlers probably at this point in her life. But that is like a lot of kids to bring to a zoo with one adult. And so like that's why I'm just saying that I think the situation was not the ideal situation for her to have her first time away from her baby without like being anxious about it.
right.
There should have been
Yeah.
a better lead up to the whole entire situation. But yeah, she definitely shouldn't just be like, oh, my husband's innocent in the matter. No, your husband should have like stood up for you or talked with you about it or like respected your decision, and definitely shouldn't just been like, no, they're going, because it's his sister, and it's just different when it's like
It
your
is.
sibling or your mom versus like your in-laws or something like that, because you just don't feel as comfortable standing up probably to them. So yeah,
Right. Yeah.
multifaceted, but I do feel for the mom too.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's hard
Well,
to leave your
to
babies.
any of our listeners that have things like this that you want our opinions on,
Yeah.
we obviously can make a whole conversation out of it. So if you have situations you want us to weigh in on or other funny things to share with us, we would love to hear them.
Yeah, yeah, and you can always send them to our email. We have it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. All
Yeah,
right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today.
yeah. See you guys next week.
Bye.